This story is so dark, it lingers set against a night of pounding rain and endless badlands. It unfolds where a lone cabin becomes the crossing point of broken lives and buried guilt. It begins with 3 quiet knocks on an old wooden door, something small, yet powerful enough to drag a man out of isolation and into blood and redemption. Before we kick off this adventure, don't forget to hit like on the video and let us know in the comments where you're watching from. The rain lashed down that night, flattening the high plains into a churn of mud and shadow. Garrick Holt heard the knock 3 measured blows on old timber and knew at once it didn't belong. No one wandered this deep into the badlands without cause, and no one chose these roads in a storm like this. Still, when he opened the door, 2 Chinese twins stood on his threshold mirror, images soaked through, trembling in the cold. Their dark almond eyes caught the lamplight like startled animals. The twin on the right stepped forward, black hair slicked to her shoulders, water running down her face, and spoke in calm, careful English, threaded with a soft musical accent. "We want sex with you, not pity." From somewhere beyond them, far off, but closing, came what she heard: 2 horses moving through the rain. They were being hunted. Garrick's grip tightened on the doorframe. The woman who had spoken met his stare without blinking. Her sister hovered just behind her, one arm, bound in cloth already darkened by something thicker than rain. She swayed, pale and unsteady. "You need to go," Garrick said, his voice rough from disuse. He hadn't spoken to another soul in weeks. "We can't," the woman replied. "The men behind us won't stop. We've been running for 3 days." Garrick looked past them into the storm. Miles of open ground offered no refuge, nothing but his cabin. Every instinct urged him to shut the door and retreat into the solitude he'd built, plank by plank. Getting involved meant questions. Attention meant his past would come looking. But the wounded twin faltered, and the other caught her by the elbow. "Please," she said, and the word carried more weight than any threat. "We know what men want. We'll give it to you. Just let us stay until morning." The way she said it, flat, businesslike, twisted something in Garrick's chest. He had seen desperation before. This went beyond it. Women taught that their bodies were the only currency anyone would take. He stepped back and opened the door wider. They slipped inside, bringing with them the sharp smell of rain sage and blood. Garrick shut the door and turned to find them standing in the center of his one-room cabin, water pooling at their feet. Their cotton dresses were simple, torn and streaked with mud. "Sit," he said, nodding toward the chairs by the fire. "Let me see that arm." The uninjured twin spoke softly in a language he didn't know. The wounded one looked from her sister to him, caught between fear and exhaustion. They didn't move. "I'm not going to hurt you," Garrick said. "That's what they all say," the first twin replied, stepping between him and her sister. "Before they take what they want." Garrick raised both hands, palms open. "Then we set rules. You sleep there," he said, indicating his bed. "I take the floor by the door. No one touches anyone unless it's to tend wounds. At first light, you tell me who's after you, and I'll decide what comes next." She studied him for a long moment, dark eyes searching for the lie she expected to find. She was beautiful in a way that had nothing to do with softness, sharp lines, hard edges, the look of someone who had survived. All sharp lines and unsoftened edges, beauty shaped by survival. At last she spoke. "Why help us if you want nothing in return?" 2 years earlier he hadn't helped, and a family had paid for it. The memory surfaced without warning, and Garrick crushed it down. "Maybe I'm just tired of being alone," he said instead. It wasn't entirely false. She murmured something to her sister, and this time Elowyn edged carefully toward the bed. The woman with the scar stayed where she was. "My name is Ione," she said. "This is my sister Elowyn." "Garrick," he replied. "Garrick," she repeated, testing the sound. "You should know the men hunting us aren't travelers. They're traders. They buy and sell women like us. And they don't forgive anyone who interferes with what they call property." Outside rain battered the cabin, but beneath it, closer, now Garrick caught the hard rhythm of horses pushing fast. He crossed to the window and looked through a slit in the shutters. 3 riders came on dark shapes moving through darker weather. "Kill the lamp," he said. Ione snuffed the flame, and the cabin vanished into black. The horses pulled up. Boots struck mud. "Holt," a voice called. "We know you're in there. We're looking for some cargo that went missing. 2 Chinese girls. You seen 'em?" The word cargo tightened Garrick's jaw. He'd heard men talk that way before, back when he wore a uniform. "Haven't seen anyone," Garrick called back. "Just me and the storm." A harsh laugh cut through the rain. "Funny thing, we followed tracks right to your door. Fresh ones. 2 sets. You sure you want to lie to us, Holt?" Behind him, Ione's sharp breath cut the silence. "The man speaking is Bram Voss." She whispered, her mouth close to his ear. "He bought us a month ago at the docks. He won't leave without us." "Open up, Holt." Voss's voice lost its friendliness. "We can do this easy or hard." Garrick's rifle rested against the wall, loaded. He might drop 1, maybe 2, but the cabin wouldn't stop lead. "Give me a minute," he called. "Let me get dressed. You've got 30 seconds. In the dark, Ione's hand found his arm. "Don't give us to them," she pleaded. "Whatever you want from us, we'll give it. Just don't let them take us back." "I'm not giving you to anyone," Garrick said. "But you have to trust me. There's a root cellar under the floor near the bed. Take your sister down there. Stay quiet no matter what you hear. And me, I'll convince them you were never here. They won't believe you." "I know." Outside, Voss's patience snapped. "Time's up, Holt." The door blew inward, wood splintering as 3 men poured through with revolvers drawn. They found Garrick standing alone, hands empty and raised, and 2 sets of wet footprints cutting straight across his floor. Bram Voss was a broad man with a face that looked as if it had been smashed once too often and never set right. He stepped into the cabin, revolver leveled at Garrick Holt's chest. Now Holt Voss set his voice a low rasp. "You care to explain those tracks? Looks like you've been sheltering stolen goods." "I don't know what you're talking about. See, that's a problem." Voss paced the room, boots thudding on the planks. He stopped near the bed. "Those 2 girls cost me good money. I don't like losing my investments." He flicked the gun toward the floor. "I've heard about you. Ex-cavalry. Discharged for refusing an order. Too soft, they said." The words landed like blows. "Ancient history," Garrick said. "Is it?" Voss smiled thinly. "Looks to me like you're making the same mistake twice." One of the Iron Trace men drifted toward the bed, and Garrick's pulse jumped. The cellar was right there. "Wait," Garrick said. Voss lifted a hand, stopping his man. "They were here," Garrick admitted. "An hour back. Cold-soaked. I fed them and sent them east toward the territorial line. Gave them a half-hour head start. It was a clean lie, plausible, tempting. It gave Voss something to chase." Voss studied him, then nodded. "Thayer Knox, check outside. See if you can pick up a trail heading east." The nervous man hurried out. "Of course," Voss said mildly, "you could be lying." He moved fast, pressing the revolver to Garrick's forehead. The steel was ice cold. "So I'm going to look anyway." In the hush, Garrick heard a sound that froze his blood. From beneath the floorboards, faint under the rain, came a wet cough. A sick cough. Elowyn's. Voss's eyes gleamed. "Well now," he murmured. "What do we have?" He tipped his chin to the last man. "Pull up those boards." Before the order could be carried out, the boards lifted from below. Ione Rose's first hands raised her face, set like carved stone. Eowyn followed, leaning hard against her sister. Evening Lady's Voss said false warmth, dripping from every word. Miss Me Ione's eyes found Garrick. In that look he saw accusation and surrender, and a thin thread of understanding that he had tried. "On your knees," Voss ordered. They knelt. Voss holstered his gun and circled them slowly. He seized a fistful of Ione's hair and wrenched her head back. "This one's got spirit. Needs to be taught her place." "Leave them alone," Garrick said, or what Voss released Ione and turned. "You're unarmed and outnumbered cavalry boy." He drew a knife and stepped toward Eowyn. "This one's already half gone. Infection. Might as well finish it now." He grabbed her injured arm. Eowyn screamed. Number 1 surged up. "Please, she's my sister. I'll do anything." Voss's smile sharpened. "Anything." He leaned closer. "What could you offer that I don't already own?" Ione's jaw tightened as she searched for words. "There's a camp," she said, her voice drained of color. 2 days north. Other girls off the same ship. 10, maybe more. I can take you to them." It was a lie shaped carefully weighted with just enough hesitation to sound real. Bram Voss studied her, then slid his knife back into its sheath. "Fine. You lead us there, and your sister lives. For now." He seized Ione's arm. "But if you're lying, I'll make you watch while I kill her slow." "We clear?" Ione nodded, her face gone to ice. "Good." Voss shoved her toward the door. "Move." One of the Iron Trace men hauled Eowyn to her feet. As Ione passed Garrick Holt, her fingers brushed his deliberate lingering. The knife she breathed so softly only he could hear. "When they turn." Before Garrick could answer, Voss drove her out into the rain. The cabin emptied of everyone except Garrick and the man Voss left behind. "Boss says make sure you don't follow." "The man," said, thumbing back the hammer of his revolver. "Nothing personal. The knife. When they turn." Understanding hit Garrick a heartbeat before the man squeezed the trigger. Garrick was already diving as the shot ripped through the space where his chest had been. He hit hard, rolled, and his hand found what Ione had hidden beneath the bed frame, his hunting knife. The gunman swung the revolver back, but Garrick was faster. He surged up from the roll, closed the gap in one breath, and drove the blade home. The man's eyes went wide. Then he folded. Garrick stood over him, hand shaking. 2 minutes, maybe less, before Voss realized his man wasn't coming. 2 years ago, he hadn't moved. He'd let it happen. Not this time. Garrick grabbed his rifle and stuffed extra rounds into his pockets, then stepped into the rain. The cabin had been his refuge. Walking away meant losing it. He thought of Ione's eyes, steady brave, and the trust carried in her whisper. She'd saved his life. He picked up their trail, angling northwest. Voss hadn't swallowed the lie about a camp to the north. They were moving fast, but Garrick was a hunter. He'd tracked war parties across worse ground than this. An hour passed. Voices rode the wind. They'd stopped to rest. Garrick eased closer. More men now, not 2. Voss had linked up with more of his crew. The sisters sat huddled together, wrists bound. One man strode up to Ione, said something low, then struck her hard. Something dark and burning flared in Garrick's chest. The man he'd tried to be for 2 years, the one who didn't care, died right then. He checked his rifle and shifted into position. From a ridge above the camp, he had clean lines of sight. Then Ione's head lifted as if she felt him there. Her gaze swept the ridgeline. She couldn't possibly see him, yet it felt like she did. Her lips moved, shaping a single silent word he understood, as if it were shouted. Wait. One of the men cut Ione's ropes and shoved her toward a separate outcropping. Voss wants a word, the man said. Garrick knew what a private talk meant with men like these. He was already moving when Ione screamed, not in pain, but in fury. The sound was sharp, deliberate, meant to pull every eye toward her. Garrick broke into a run. He swung around the outcropping and found Ione standing over a body, the man's own knife buried deep in his throat. When she saw Garrick, something feral and unbroken flashed in her eyes. "I told you to wait," she said, yanking the blade free. Shouts tore through the camp. Boots thundered toward them. Garrick lifted his rifle as two men rounded the rocks. He fired twice. Both fell before they could squeeze a trigger. That left Bram Voss and one other. "Get your sister," Garrick said. "Take the horses and ride." "No." Ione's voice was steel. She caught his arm. "I'm done running. You came back for us. Now let me fight beside you." Holt Voss's voice boomed through the dark. "You killed my men. You've got one chance to walk away." "Not happening," Voss Garrick called back. "They're not your property," you idiot, Voss snarled. "I've got your other little porcelain doll right here with a knife at her throat. Step out where I can see you or I start cutting." It was a smart threat. Then Ione's voice cut clean through the night, strong and unbowed. "He doesn't have her, Garrick. We're free." Confusion rippled, then understanding. Ione hadn't just armed herself. The screaming began a heartbeat later, and it wasn't Elowen. Garrick ran toward the noise. He found Voss's last man staggering back, a deep slash across his arm. Elowen stood over him, a blood-smeared skinning knife in her hand, her eyes blazing with a fury that burned her fear away. In the center of the camp, Bram Voss stood alone. "You little witch," he hissed, revolver trained on Ione. She didn't blink. "You should have killed us when you had the chance." Everything broke loose at once. With a final burst of strength, Elowen snatched a rock from the fire ring and hurled it. It smashed into Voss's gun hand hard enough to make him flinch, not enough to drop the weapon. It was all Ione needed. She charged not straight at him, but off to the side, opening a lane. Garrick's rifle rose. Years of training took over. He fired. The round caught Voss high in the shoulder, spinning him sideways. The revolver flew from his grip. Ione hit him like a storm, slamming her shoulder into his wounded side and driving him into the mud. They rolled Voss, clawing for purchase, his hands closing around Ione's throat. Garrick was sprinting, but Elowen got there first. She scooped up the fallen revolver and leveled it at Voss's head, hands shaking. "Elowen, no," Garrick said. "Don't!" Ione rasped, even as Voss's grip tightened. "We're not like him." "Let the law have him," Garrick said, easing Elowen back. He planted his boot on Voss's wounded shoulder, pinning him. Ione tore free and stood there, chest heaving, staring down at the man who had tried to break them. "We let him live," she said at last, knowing that two women he called cargo are the reason he failed, that she decided was punishment enough. 3 days later, Garrick Holt stood outside the territorial marshal's office as Bram Voss was marched out in irons. The word of a former cavalryman backed by 4 dead bodies had sealed it. Voss would hang. "Will it hold?" Ione asked, standing beside Garrick on the sunlit wooden walk. "It'll hold," Garrick said. "I made sure." She nodded, then looked at him. In the clean light of morning, stripped of fear and desperation, he finally saw her clearly strong, sharp-minded, and fiercely beautiful. "What will you do now?" she asked. The cabin still waited somewhere out on the plains, but the man who had needed its silence was gone. "I don't know yet," he admitted. "You will find passage home," she said. "It won't be easy, but we know how to fight now." They stood there in an easy quiet. After a moment, Ione spoke again, her gaze steady. "That first night, I made you an offer that shamed me. I thought all men were the same." She stepped closer, placing her hand over his chest, feeling his heart. You proved me wrong. You gave us something worth more than safety. You gave us our choice back. That's a debt I can't repay. You don't owe me anything, Garrick said. I know, she replied, a small smile touching her lips. That's why I want to give you this. She rose onto her toes and kissed him. It began softly, then deepened an answer to everything they had endured. It lasted only a moment, but in it, 2 years of isolation cracked and fell away. When she pulled back, her eyes held both warmth and a quiet sadness, a better memory than the one we started with. Elowen appeared in the boarding house doorway, her arm cleanly bandaged. She offered Garrick a shy smile. Thank you, Garrick Holt. He watched them leave 2 women riding west toward the coast, toward home. Ione glanced back once, lifting her hand in farewell. Garrick raised his in return. He turned his horse south. Marshal Rowan had mentioned other cases, other slavers, other people who needed help. For 2 years, Garrick Holt had been running from what he'd been. Maybe it was time to spend the rest of his life riding toward something instead. He rode on, not a man in hiding anymore, but a man with purpose. Finally, let me send my deep thanks to you. Thank you for giving your time to this story. Some journeys shape us, and we hope this one left a mark on your heart. There are more paths ahead, more legends of love, hardship, and redemption beneath the western sky. Please subscribe, leave your thoughts, and travel with us once again. Thank you, and God bless. Aviso legal/disclaimer. The stories presented here are creative expressions and may mix historical inspiration with dramatized scenes. AI tools contribute to some elements of voice, imagery, and structure, but every published story is refined by editors and creators to ensure authentic emotional impact. We honor YouTube's policies and do not generate deceptive likenesses or artificial depictions of real people. All audio-visual components are legally licensed. Any use, redistribution, or alteration of this content must be granted through written consent. Your presence here means a lot. Thank you for supporting artistic storytelling.